Hello, everybody. What we're going to talk about today? I don't know. What's this all about? Why am I here? Is there some kind of subject? I don't know. So everything looks right here and here. So I guess it's going to be okay. Hey everybody, welcome to the Shortwave show. This is the Wednesday edition, the one that starts later. So we are Wednesday, September 18th, 2019, and this is show number 2. So this is nice. Peace and 2 goes together. So we are, of course, live 2 times a week on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 0 hours Universal Time. Friday, 20 hours UTC, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And we hope to have kind of a different target audience. And we talk about radio, actually. And today we talk about antennas. I wonder why. Came up today as a subject. I was like, let's talk about antennas. I wonder why they're... I don't know. It could have anything to do... Oh, there's something important missing, by the way. It could have something important to do with, I don't know, me receiving a certain loop antenna. Hey, we're on the air. It's got to be on. Maybe. I don't know. Some kind of Chinese MLA30 loop. Maybe. I don't know. Some kind of, oh, look at that. Let's talk about antennas. So we talk about shortwave radio. Shortwave, most of what we talk about is 30 megahertz or below. So that means that we are talking about long wave, medium wave, shortwave, and today the topic is antennas. We'll talk about types of antennas that you use when you actually tune the shortwave bands, and maybe it'll give you an idea of what antenna to use, something to buy, or if you don't have a budget for that, there are ways to have antennas that are very cheap. So hope you enjoyed today's show. My name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. That's the northeast part of North America. And we are here to entertain and have fun with all of you guys on this Wednesday evening, kind of cutting the week in half. So today, no beer, because we have wine. So cheers, a little glass of red wine left over from what I was eating a little earlier. So cheers, everybody. So today we talk about antennas for shortwave radio. Those that have joined us, well, there's a beautiful chat room with wonderful people that are really, really great in helping out, and it's kind of always fun to have you guys around. And it's part of why I am live, also why I do this, having fun with you guys, because I'd be talking to myself if that was not the case, and it'd be boring, huh? What do you think? So hope you enjoyed today's show, and that you have fun. Terry Cook, nice to have you here. KF7BQ. HF Zone, nice to have you on board. Josh from Chesapeake, Virginia. Joe Sombra Newhouse, nice to have you on board, my friend. Skateboarding 118, nice to have you here, my friend. Joe Sombra Newhouse is from Brazil. Brent, nice to have you here, my friend, from Brockville, Ontario, Canada. William Helms, nice to have you here from Florida. Keith Logan, nice to have you on board. Hey, Glenn, from Toronto, nice to have you here. Circuitous Vibes, nice to have you on board from Tucson, Arizona. And, of course, I won't talk about my Chinese shortwave loop. Why should I talk about that? Hey, David Green, nice to have you here. Nice to have you on board. And It's so funny because I got the loop antenna this morning, and I mean, that was fast. I ordered it last week. It's been a week, and it's already here. And the funniest thing is, I got that, I looked at it, and I said, okay, I got to install that now. And it was like, I had to do videos and stuff, and I was like, no, I'm doing that now. I'm going to put that up now. So it didn't take very long. It's actually very nice. I'll talk about some of the interesting aspects of that loop, and the tests that I've been doing since I got it. A little more tonight, but don't look at my videos as an official review or anything. It's my official review will really come in the form of an official review video, where I will talk about the good and the bad, because surely there's some bad stuff. I've seen a little bit of the bad, well, bad. It's not really bad, but of where it might not be as good as it could be. But overall, it's amazing antenna. Tech Guy, nice to have you here. Unpopcom, nice to have you on board from South Central Pennsylvania. HF Zone is listening to WBCQ in 7490. Brian Penny, nice to have you here from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Pretty cool. Dave Toth, nice to have you on board, my friend. Danny, Shortwave, and Radio DX, good evening. Nice to have you on board from Yonkers, New York. Jerry DX, nice to have you here. Always cool to have everybody on board. Michael Satterfield, nice to have you here. Al Mason, nice to have you on board. KF0OU. Butterbean, nice to have you on board from Northeast Georgia. Jeff Barrett, nice to have you here, my friend. And for you guys that want to have a good laugh, Mr. Paul today did something quite unusual. I woke up this morning and I looked outside to see Mr. Paul on the roof of my neighbor's car. Look at that. Paul was on the roof of my neighbor's car this morning. This is like, what the hell are you doing there? And just looking at me like, yeah, I got a great viewpoint from here. I can see everything. It was like, what are you doing on top of the neighbor's car? Oh, man. Bro Weaver, nice to have you on board. He says, nighttime live shows are the best. Philip Briggs, nice to have you on board from southern Brazil. So, pretty cool to see you here, everybody. Dave B, nice to have you here from Sterling Heights, Michigan. Man. Joseph the New House, your videos about Navtex solved my doubt about 4209. I was receiving some nights before. Very interesting. That is very interesting because nowhere could I find info about Argentina. I could see that 4210, there was New Orleans Navtex. But New Orleans, when it's on, talks about the Caribbean. It doesn't talk about South America. And it doesn't have Spanish. So I started, at first it was English, so I was like, okay. But it was mentioning all of these, Paraguay, Uruguay, Antarctica. I was like, okay, wait a minute. This cannot be one of the U.S. stations. It's impossible. But I couldn't find any information while I was doing search. And finally, after looking at it, because I had received Argentina's Navtex on somewhere around 12 megahertz in the afternoon, late afternoon. And I remembered the pattern, I remember what they were talking about. So when I looked at it, it was like, okay, this has to be Argentina. And pretty much the only South American country that I know that has Navtex, pretty much. Like Brazil might have Navtex, but I haven't heard Brazil or anything from Brazil in that sense in a long time. So when I looked at it, and then they were in Spanish, and they were talking about Antarctica, it was like, okay, this is Argentina Navtex. It has to be. And it couldn't be anything else. It looked like it. And I remembered that 12 megahertz Navtex transmission, and I said, no, this has to be Argentina. So it's not anywhere. I haven't found anywhere where they talk about Argentina being there, but it's definitely Argentina that was there sending Navtex bulletin. So it's kind of cool. Bobby Burgess, nice to have you here. WA5107 SWL in Morgan City, Louisiana. Redalva65, nice to have you on board from New York City. And pretty cool to have you here. HF zone is WA4333 SWL. So, hey, welcome everybody to this Wednesday evening show. And today we talk about antennas. Before we reach and talk about the loops, we're going to start talking about the basics of shortwave listening. So the basics of shortwave listening, for the most part, are like this. So here's, for example, most people have a portable receiver. It's not everybody that has these, really fancy tabletop models or software-defined receivers and stuff. Most people start off with a portable like this. This is the Texan PL600. What comes with a portable? Of course, a telescopic antenna. And I gotta be frank, for most portables, the telescopic is enough. For most portables, this will be an okay antenna to use to tune around the shortwave bands. And you'll be able to hear stuff in here, correctly. So for example, here's a very noisy environment, but let's just see here if I... So here's Voice of Vietnam via HRI.
National unity is a strategic orientation, an internal strength, and a massive momentum to national construction and defense.
Only telescopic.
In 1930, Lai Quoc, who later became President Ho Chi Minh, and the Communist Party of Vietnam initiated the Anti-Imperialist Alliance, the first organizational mode of the Vietnam National United Front. The cornerstone.
So of course, you see that even though it's noisy here, even with the telescopic, I'm receiving Voice of Vietnam now. Of course, it's not direct Vietnam. It's via WHRI in Cypress Creek. So what exactly could improve a radio in general? So for a portable radio, if you don't have too much noise, the telescopic will bring in a pretty amazing amount of signals already, because portable receivers are designed for that. They're designed with in the mind of people won't be putting up antennas everywhere. They're just gonna probably want to use the portable radio itself, and so they are extremely sensitive. Today's portable, I mentioned the XH Data D808. This was the first Texan I purchased, the Texan PL600, which is a pretty amazing receiver. And of course, there's other models. C-Crane, whatever you have is fine. They are so sensitive today. And for the most part, people will be okay using the telescopic that comes with the portable radio. But there comes a time when you actually have a need for a little more. And one of the things that some receivers have, like this Texan does, is that it has an antenna jack here. So they've included in here an antenna jack to actually add something else. But, you got this radio, you don't understand much about shortwave, and you kind of just look at that and like, yeah, but what do I put in there? A TV antenna? What antenna should I buy? What should I do? I don't really know. And that's where there's different choices, pretty much for all prices. And I would probably say that for this first part, the simplest antenna is the best. And when I mean simple, it's darn simple. A piece of wire. Any type of electrical wire of some sort, speaker wire, any wire left over from something that is a metal piece of wire. The diameter of the wire doesn't matter. The length does. Usually we'll want to have the longest possible, but not always, because there's always, depending on the radio you use, there will be some positive, negative aspects of using, too long of a wire, or depending on where you live, could be, adding something more than just a telescopic can actually mean it's just going to be worse. And you might say, well, how can having more antenna be worse? Well, it has to do with the gymnastics of the electronics in here, pretty much. So let's just check out check out a little more here. Wizard of Oz 43, nice to have you on board from Wyoming. Ron Seal, welcome aboard, Ron. Nice to have you here. HF Zone, do you have the same issue I have with Texan portables with the kickstand breaking off? Yeah, it's not just with Texan portables. I overall have a big problem with that kickstand always breaking off. They're kind of flimsy, they're plastic, and if you put a little bit of weight, well, you break it kind of easily at some point. So of course this one's broken. I've got a couple of radios that it's broken off also. I believe my Grundig G5 is also broken. It's you got to be careful because these are very flimsy. And I end up at some point just putting an object to angle the radio like I want and just leaving it like that. But yes, definitely there's something, and it's not just a Texan thing. It's an overall radio thing. My Radio Shack DX398, which is, by the way, the same as the Sangean ATS 909. I remember writing Sangean and telling them that I needed a new little plastic stand for the radio. And I was so surprised to get an answer back saying, you know what, just give us your postal address, and we're gonna send you one free of charge. And they had actually sent me a new one free of charge for my Radio Shack DX398. So that was kind of nice. It was like, wow, they're sending it free. They would have asked $5 and I would have paid it. But when they said, well, yeah, just give us your address, I'm going to send one. It's like, wow, this is cool. They send me one for free. But yeah, it is a problem in a lot of the portable receivers, I got to say. HF Zone says, anyone else notice the U.S. Air Force frequencies busier than usual last day or two? What's happening with Iran, Saudi Arabia, and all of that? It's possible. For 724, let's park ourselves on one of those frequencies here. And by the way, right now I'm on the MLA 30 loop on the RSP1A, and we're gonna get to that. So I know you guys want to see that, but we are going to get to that for sure. Ron Sears using clothesline with jumpers. Hey, Kevin Wood from Nova Scotia. Nice to have you here. Eton E5 came with a nice little wire antenna on the spool. KC1HOX, Glenn. Nice to have you here, my friend. Simon Templar, good evening. Nice to have you on board. So as we continue, we got some receivers that come like, Kevin, the Eton E5, or I believe is the same as the Grundig G5. Some come with a little wire antenna of some sort that you can plug in and clip. My Texan PL600, if I remember well, came with a little piece of wire that you can actually plug into the antenna connector there. It kind of, if we look at it, it kind of adds, maybe makes that telescopic like maybe 4 times, 5 times longer technically. And of course, in antennas, in general, the longer the antenna, or the wire, the more signal you are going to get to the radio. And that is something that is general. So when somebody asks me, is there a specific length? Of course, we are talking about radio waves, and radio waves have a meter length. It has a length. That's why we call 28 megahertz the 10 meter band, for example, because they have a certain length where it resonates. So if you have a 10 meter long antenna, it resonates at 10 meters at 28, 29 megahertz. So that's why there's meter bands, because there's wavelength in there. And the shortwave frequencies have different wavelengths. So you might have heard, oh, I'm listening to the 80 meter band. Yeah, 80 meter band because the wavelength at 3.5 megahertz roughly is 80 meters. Where you notice that 80 meters is quite long, and you might say, well, nobody has an 80 meter long antenna. Well, you'd be surprised, some do, but in general, we can use quarter waves or half waves or so on. What is interesting to note, the lower the frequency you're listening to, the longer the antenna needs to be to really get the maximum amount of signal. So, of course, if you listen to frequencies in the 60 meter band for tropical stuff, yeah, well, 60 meters is a resonance. That means that you can go up to 60 meters in length, and you'll get more and more signal in general. Now, where that can catch you up is on a portable radio or any tabletop radio that isn't designed well. Often when they are less expensive, what the problem is that the input circuit and the amplification circuit can withstand a maximum amount of signal before it actually overloads and starts freaking out. So it's not necessarily on the signal you're listening to. It could be some signal on another frequency. Because your radio, when you're tuning shortwave, so I was tuning Vietnam here, that radio, at the same time, a little bit like an SDR, even though the radio itself is tuned to a frequency, the signals on other frequencies around it are acting up in the radio. The radio has got to fight. Its tuned circuit is to a specific frequency, but its overall circuitry is also blasted with what's elsewhere. Why? Because it's a wideband radio. It receives, 30 megahertz of spectrum. It has to be able to listen to all of it. So even though if you're tuned on one, it kind of can be deranged, or it can be annoyed at, if we can say it, at the fact that there are some very strong signals on another frequency around it. So you don't see that, but your radio is overloaded. And all sorts of weird things happen when that happens. It could distort the audio. It could make you hear the audio of another station on another frequency at the same time as the audio of the station you're listening to. It can, in some cases, desensitize the radio. So you might be listening in, and then you roll out, 50 feet of wire, and you're like, why is the signal so crappy? It was okay on the telescopic, but it's kind of degraded with a long antenna. Why? Because the electronics can't cope with strong signals. So there's a good thing of having the longer wire possible, and there's a bad thing for certain radios. That's why, people that listen a lot and that have the possibility to buy one will often get either a more expensive radio or a good tabletop receiver, like the ICOM that I've got here, or that Yaesu transceiver here. Usually these cope much better with the fact that there's very strong signals. Why? Because they were designed for that. They were designed to really be able to get a lot of signals, but not overload on any, and try to keep everything just working right, and filter out what is unwanted. So the basic antenna for anybody, the one that is the most inexpensive, will be a wire antenna. And the way to hook it up to your radio can be different ways. There's some radios with, like the Texan here, that has a antenna jack. It could be simply using, I do that all the time. I don't have one close here, but using crocodile clips and just clipping it to the telescopic is good. Now, somebody asked me once, and not just one guy, I've had that regularly asked, is there a difference in plugging the antenna here and clipping to the antenna, the telescopic? Depending on the receiver design, yes, there could be. Some receivers, the antenna jack is wired differently so that it can easily handle longer wires or longer antennas. While if you clip it on the telescopic, you're using the same circuitry, the same amplification circuitry that the telescopic uses. That could overload it more, depending on the radio. It depends on each radio. Some radios, all it does is disconnect the telescopic and have you plug in directly with the wire, and nothing more. And in that case, clipping it with a alligator clip to the antenna, or just using the antenna jack, makes no difference. And often I often clip it to the telescopic of most portables. But there are some portables that actually have a circuitry. It's different. It's designed in a way that you probably should have the antenna plugged in. The antenna on the radio depends on its design. And of course, if you don't have an antenna jack, just clip it with alligator clips. Or just, sometimes what I'll do is couple, what we call this coupling. Coupling means that direct, and that's good, by the way, if there's a lot of radios that might overload. So if I use my sloper in the backyard, which is 80 feet long roughly, most portables I own, when I clip with the alligator clip to the telescopic, the radio doesn't react well to it. It's 80 feet long, it overloads. It could be local AM medium wave stations that make it overload. So what I'll do is I'll just roll the antenna, the wire, with its insulation around the telescopic. And that still has an effect. Even though the metal of the wire is not touching the telescopic, there's, radio waves are electromagnetic waves. They create an electromagnetic environment. So when you actually roll a insulated wire around it, it actually still interacts with the telescopic. But since it doesn't touch it, it's not as good. But in the case where the radio overloads, it's often the best way to do it, because it attenuates the signals just enough to have the radio not overload, but it actually gives enough signal to have your radio perform better than just with the telescopic. But wire antenna is probably the most basic of all. When I started listening in the 80s, with my DX100, that's the first thing I did was, I was reading the manual. Manual was like, okay, it looked complicated, because that's one of the things we got to be careful here in the hobby also. You look at the manuals, and the manuals have these schematics of, oh, well, here's the wire in a tree with a counterpoise, and there's grounding that has to be done, and most people that are not very technical look at that and they're like, I don't know how to hook that up like that and what to do. And in reality, it could be so much simpler. So much simpler. And that means just, clip an antenna to the telescopic and just throw it out the window. Start with that. And then as time goes by, antenna design could be more interesting, because as time goes by, you might notice that, having the antenna outside, a shielded cable bring the signal inside, improves the signal because it removes the noise that's inside your home, for example. But the first thing you should do is just hook up a piece of wire and go around. Look at where you can hook it up around your home. You might notice that when you put a piece of wire in a certain place outside or inside your home, there's less noise, more signals come in. For example, if I would do that, I'd do that in the kitchen here. So here's some U.S. Air Force signals. 4724 8992. So these are U.S. Air Force EAMs, emergency action messages from the U.S. Army. So 4724 8992 11175. So start with a wire antenna. I think that's the basics of trying out something. And of course, as you start getting more signals and start listening to shortwave, and if you're particularly interested, you'll find that there's a lot more that you can do that will make things even better. And we're going to talk about that, of course, as we go by. Okay, anybody else that I've missed here? We're just going to go down a little bit and see if we missed out on anything else in the... Haven't said hello to anyone. Ron Deming, nice to have you here, my friend. Technical Todd, nice to have you on board. Todd Schmidt. Wanted to change in my YouTube channel that wasn't so personal. Yeah, you can. That's one thing to do often. Most of my channels have names that don't imply my personal name or anything. But that's great. Technical Todd, that's cool. Trustin Patty, nice to have you on board from Newfoundland, Canada. Philip Briggs, nice to have you here. A discount with a vertical whip on top can work reasonably well down at HF, even if not supposedly covering below, say, 25 megahertz. You got to remember that an antenna is designed for a specific length, a specific frequency range, but it doesn't cut off. Technically, what's going to happen, like for example with your discount, is that the lower you go on the shortwave bands, the less it's going to perform well. And an example of that is I used a 102-inch whip antenna, which is made for CB. It resonates at 27 megahertz. So with a 10-meter band, it's amazing because it resonates really close to that, and it works well. But as you go down in frequency, you go down to the international broadcast band, like the 19-meter band or so on, you see that the lower you go in frequency, the less it resonates, and the less the signals are strong. It doesn't, cut off, but it will show that it's not the best performance compared to another type of antenna that would be made for that. Jay Watterson 69, nice to have you on board. HF Zone says I can make my RSP1A overload with certain gain settings, certain parts of the band, and it does freak out, and I hear things on 3 or 4 international bands away. Yes, easily. And remember one thing of the RSP1A is that sometimes, for example, before the show started, I went to 3 megahertz, and I noticed that there were some international broadcast stations there was a Radio Marti actually on 3 megahertz something, and I was like, whoa, this is overload. And I wasn't sure if it was the MLA30 or the RSP1A, so I just shut off SDR Uno, and I restarted the software, which resets RSP1A at the same time, and the signal was gone. Sometimes on the RSP1A, and that's a weird thing that happens with it, you need to shut off the software and restart the software to have it reset, and it comes back to normal. What else do we have? Ruth Dunn, nice to have you here. VE3KRP, nice to have you on board. Fast Eddie. Ron Demings getting Radio Havana Cuba 11700 with weak but readable signal in Oregon coast. Check it out here, 11700. Anything else? Let's do something here. So you guys gonna check it out here. So it's a manual switch. I'm just gonna show you guys to tune around. I've got manual tune around. That means I got my wire and I just have to unscrew and screw the other one. So right now my RSP1A here is on the MLA30 loop. So let's switch to W6LVP. I'll just shut up for a few seconds. You guys can listen there. So this is the MLA30. And this is W6LVP loop. It's a little noisier on the W6LVP. Still audible. back on the MLA. It actually is better on the MLA 30, on 11700. And we're going to get back because I've had some observations of my own there. But the MLA 30 in general is lower noise. And I have seen that reported on many of the different reviews that I've actually seen. So this is kind of interesting. Okay, what else do we have? Randy in Riverside, California. Joe Sombra Newhouse says, once plugged a PL600 to a 20-meter wire, received less stations than the telescopic. Yeah, that typical overloading. Sometimes more noise also is a big problem with that. Dave Todd says, amazing what I can hear on just 20 feet of wire strung along the ceiling. Two sides of the room indoors with the SDR play while the outdoor antenna is hooked to the icon. It is always pretty amazing. I remember the first signals that I received that were kind of interesting because it was like listening to Radio Australia with like 15 feet of wire, you know, in the living room, you know. So a little bit of buffering. Some people are saying. I hope it's okay now. Here, everything looks good here. So hope that everything holds up to that. What else do we have? What else do we have? Kevin Wood, will you comment on WBCQ current status? I'm out of loop since the hurricane. Okay, WBCQ, for everybody that's wondering what's happening. The info I have here is two ways. I got info, of course, of listening to Alan Wiener on his Alan Wiener Worldwide show on Friday. And I got some info from a little more personal perspective with people I know. And so what's happening is that WBCQ's new transmitter and antenna need parts. And from what I've seen is that the transmitter maker has gone bankrupt. And it's getting very complicated. Also, the antenna that they have has kind of tunable coils in it that change depending on the frequency that you want to tune in. And one of the things that he mentioned was that one of them broke off in the tower, in the antenna itself. So what's happening is that they're kind of in a no zone because of the bankruptcy of the company, and they need parts to replace. Plus the fact that Alan Wiener is constantly ranting at how he doesn't understand and is finding very complicated the fact that the transmitter and antennas are computerized, running Windows 10, and that he just rants all the time about that, saying that he wants buttons and, you know, he wants things to be simpler. So he's got a mix of understanding how it works, a mix of there's some problems with the company apparently being bankrupt. It looks like a big mess. And you know what? One of the things, because that's what I was thinking, and it's my personal opinion, because when I posted my WBCQ news the other day, man, I got some rants, some personal rant on some my shortwave email, my official shortwave radio email, of people saying, how dare you talk bad about Alan Wiener and the superstation and blah, blah, blah. He knows what he's doing. You really don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, okay. Well, I know more than what I'm talking about than you might think, actually. And I might be knowing more than actually you might know. And the thing is, I find that it looks fishy. I find that it looks like they installed the antenna, they didn't do it right, and it broke something off. And he's trying to rant at the fact that it's probably not his fault. But, you know, it looks like a rant of somebody that broke something. but that doesn't want to admit it and is trying to pass it off as the antenna had defects and whatever. It sounds so much like that, honestly. And the Egyptian guy that spent $10 million on that isn't happy because the signal is not making it to the Middle East. And now they've registered frequencies on the 19 meter band, 16 meter band, but they can't have the antenna running. And they can't have the transmitter running. So the superstation is off. And when it's going to be back, we have no idea. What's happening, we got no idea. And it's super complicated. So right now, they're back with their regular transmitters, which are very easy to know, actually, because all of their transmitters are almost all off frequency by, a couple of hundred hertz. So, like 5130 was 5130.2, 7490 was like 7489.9 or something. They're all a little off. And the only one that was really straight on dot was the Superstation 9330. But now it's off, and I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It was interesting also that Alan Wiener last Friday wasn't on. It was Timtron that was there, and he was totally lost at how to have things working. He couldn't even take calls because he would hang up on everybody because he didn't know how to answer a call. It was so weird. It was a weird show Friday, and he would put music on and then run off because 6160 was always tripping off, and the whole operation looks like really not going well, honestly. So we'll see, and we'll try to keep up with any other news that could be coming out of there, Kevin. Kinnick, nice to have you here from South Brazil. Stephen Emert, nice to have you here. Interesting on overload. So I'm about 4 miles from the antenna of local AM and FM station. Think I'd benefit from bandpass filters to reduce those signals when listening to shortwave? Yep, there's a possibility of that, absolutely. If you have here, for example, in Montreal, I'm in an environment that has an amazing amount of strong FM and AM stations. And one of the things that happens there is that often receivers are overloaded by that. When I purchased my W6LVP loop, Larry, that is the guy behind it, actually came back and said, look, I was looking at the AM FM station signal strength where you live, and I kind of noticed that you've got some really powerful signals there. So there was he added in my loop antenna a high pass and a low pass filter. So one that filters out everything that the FM station could be interfering with, and one that actually removed everything below the 160 meter band of amateur radio, so AM stations. And because he said that I would probably not be happy with this. Now, one of the biggest problems with that is it cuts off also things I would like to listen to. So, for example, there would be no possibility for me to get medium wave on my W6LVP loop, but I can on my new MLA30, and we're going to talk about that, of course, in the coming minutes. What else do we have? William Helm, skin effect of insulated wire. I've been experimenting with what's called line cord capacitance for a long time. So, it's kind of fun because when you couple, you just put insulated wire over the antenna, it actually does still help, but it attenuates the signal, so it might not overload that much. Talking about also, Stephen, about local AM FM station. For a while, I had the Montreal Aviation station on 1610 kilohertz, and they were smack about 1.5 kilometers away from me, and they were running only 1,000 watts, 1 kilowatt. But 1 kilowatt, 1.5 kilometers away, was overloading and creating images even on my ICOM receiver, which it's to tell you that when your $2,000 receiver actually has images popping up, it's because, wow, that thing overloads something amazing. Technical Todd finally ordered his SDR player RSP1A. I goofed up and ordered it from the UK, so now it's a waiting game. Well, as long as you get it, that's the most important thing. SparkyZilla85, nice to have you here, my friend. 4724 S9 plus 20 signal. Wow, pretty cool. Dave Todd, who is on 4004 RTTY? Always strong. Yeah, I believe it's. I remember reading somewhere that 4004 was some kind of a an army radio teletype thing, but it's encrypted, so you're not gonna get it. You're not gonna get it unencrypted. You're not gonna decode anything off of it. It's an encrypted radio teletype. Sid Vic, nice to have you here, my friend. What else do we have? Let's go down. Yeah, pre-selectors were kind of tunable band-pass filters, absolutely. A lot of low-end receivers, Terry, actually incorporated pre-selectors to cope with the fact that the radio itself wasn't that great. One example is the Realistic DX, the Radio Shack DX 302 that I had. JR's Journeys, nice to have you here. Been super long time, so nice to have you on board, Judd. KM4UBR, pretty cool. Mickey Dalmage, nice to have you here, Mickey. And he's got just finished his barbecue Jamaican jerk chicken. That sounded good. I had hamburgers on the barbecue. Prasad Asaldekar, nice to have you on board. Prasad from India, right? Nice to have you here. Jason Francis, nice to have you here from Ottawa. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. John McClure, nice to have you on board. Yeah, just refresh. When you hear only the voice, just refresh the page. Usually it's going to come in. Some people said earlier there was a little bit of buffering. Here everything looks all right. So sometimes YouTube is acting up, unfortunately. William Moser, nice to have you here, my friend. And it's not Friday. Rickshaw Jack, nice to have you on board. And always nice to have you on board, my friend. What else do we have? No problem, Jeff King. Ev Blassie, nice to have you here from Oakland, California. Bobby Burgess, Alan Wiener got to give up. Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. One thing for sure, if the other guy gave 10 million, one of the things that's for sure is that he's going to want to have his 10 million back if it doesn't work. So I don't know. He's kind of stuck. He needs to do something for sure. Michael, nice to have you here from West Virginia. Dr. Sisop, nice to have you here, my friend, from Florida. Edvaldo Lemes, nice to have you here, my friend, from Brazil. PY4001SWL, nice to have you here. Mickey Dalmage, yes, Glenn Hauser is going to have his 2000th show tomorrow. Now, imagine that. Imagine I'm here and I would be at my 2000th YouTube live show, which should happen sometime in the year 2055. But it's crazy. I mean, 2,000 shows. It's just crazy when you think about it. Congratulations, absolutely, to Glenn Hauser for that. Do a WWVCHU check on all frequencies. Okay, let's try 25. Nothing there. 20. Nope. 15. Nope. 10. Ten is there. Let's compare 10 on the two antennas. So this is MLA 30. And this is on W6 LVP. It's noisier. And the signal is actually better on the MLA 30. This is crazy. I'm starting to find it interesting here. Okay, 5 megahertz. Yep, 5 megahertz also. 2500. Not there yet. CHU 14670 is usually never here. 7850. Nope. And 3330. Let's try both antennas here. So this is MLA 30. It isn't strong tonight. Let's try the W6 LVP loop. That's it. You see, 3330 is better on the W6 LVP loop. Even though there's some fade outs. Let's go back on the LA 30. It's actually difficult to, it has more to do with propagation, because I can't really switch fast enough. They're really, really close. I'm gonna say both MLA 30 and W6 LVP are just crazy. What else do we have? William Moser, are wideband radios popular? If you talk about really wideband receivers, like think the receivers that go from way down in the long wave band all the way up to UHF frequencies in the gigahertz range, they are popular somewhat. It is nice to have one of those for, like the RSP1A is a wideband receiver. It's a wideband. It goes down to 1 kilohertz, goes up to 2 gigahertz. You can listen into so many signals thanks to the fact that it's very wideband. But sometimes you gotta have, there's a compromise also in having such a wideband receiver, because you might have, depending on the receiver design, less performance overall, or on a specific range that you want to listen to. So it depends what you want to do. If you don't have the money to buy 2-3 different receivers, a good wideband receiver could be okay. Mark Cope, nice to have you on. Okay, Jeff Barrett, was jumping over a question. Can 2 radios share the same antenna? I often do this. Honestly, I often do it. I use the same antenna on 2-3 radios by just splitting the antenna connection with different cables. Now, it's not the best way to do it, but yeah, it would work. Technically, it works well. Often when I do some of the videos, some of you might have noticed that, for example, when I use my sloper antenna and I clip with the alligator clips, you might notice that I clip from antenna to antenna with different clips and just go from radio to radio, which means technically they're all getting the signal from the same sloper antenna. Even though it's not a perfect way to do it, it works very well, honestly. Mark Cope says, just got off the lake, enjoying our Indian summer in Texas. He took the PL660 and got 33 stations when I let it auto-tune. Cool. That's nice. No noise changes everything. Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Ray Lyle, nice to have you on board from Southern Illinois. 4N Radio. Do you own or plan to get an HF Plus Discovery? At a Group D expedition at Washington Coast last weekend, discoveries performed equal to Perseus rigs for overseas medium wave DX. So he says impressed. I don't own one. Of course, there's always an interest in looking at other radios and other devices. So, if the money's there and if the possibility's there, of course, that would be things I would look at. It's all a question of money, because unfortunately, it doesn't grow on trees. But if it's possible, yep, I'll absolutely enjoy. I would enjoy looking at one of those and checking that out. Joe Sombra Newhouse says, at my parents' hometown, there's 4 FM stations into almost 6 kilometers around their house. Sometimes my SDR there got many FM harmonics. It happens, unfortunately, yes, for sure. So, here is CHU 3330. 3830, Radio Man, nice to have you on board. Yeah, we're going to tune in to different signals and switch the antenna. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't have the a switch box, so it's really a question of I gotta unscrew the antenna connector and plug the other one in. But we're gonna try it on a few signals and try to compare. Technical Todd says, well, I've been watching all the videos on RSP1A and it really blows my mind. Why bother with a desktop when you can have such great performance from a wideband SDR? The RSP1A is an amazing device. That said, a desktop, an expensive desktop, has an edge over it. For example, my ICOM 8500 does show that it's getting a little more signal and a little more possibilities than the RSP1A. But the difference is so close that for most users it's okay. There was a group that I was on Facebook a few weeks ago. When somebody posts something, there's always an avalanche of guys that want to rant and say, well, you don't know what you're talking about and blah, blah, blah. So the guy posted, I got an RSP1A and it doesn't receive shortwave well. And the first that posted said, well, I got this whatever $4,000 receiver. Of course, that must be crap for the price that it's paid. Buy yourself this, receiver that I've got that performs. That's why you got crappy stuff, because the RSP1A at the price it is, it's one of those junk radios. And I immediately posted, anybody that says the RSP1A is a junk radio, well, you never tried one, or if you did, you don't know what you're doing. And I said, that RSP1A is not as good as your $4,000 radio, probably. But it's so darn close that you'd be amazed if you knew how it worked. And of course, it started a big rant where I always get off, because it's like, you don't start screwing around with people that start telling you that, well, that's impossible and then you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, you never own one. And you're trying to tell me that that thing is no good, but you never own one and you never tried one. So in reality, you are talking about the fact that you are annoyed at somebody that is suggesting that maybe a $200 radio could be very close to your $4,000 receiver, because it annoys you as hell that you paid $4,000 for it and that I could maybe show you that it's almost as good with 200. And, when you get in a conversation with somebody just starts ranting and saying, well, my $10,000 radio is better than yours. Okay. I think that's enough for a discussion. Because when you start talking like that, I don't see where we could discuss of anything. Because, yeah, my ICOM ICRD 500 costs 10 times what the RSP1A costs. It is slightly better. And I've used the word slightly. I haven't used the word, it's amazingly better. I just said it's slightly better. And all in all, you know what? if I had one radio to buy, I'd rather have an RSP-1A or an RSP-2 Pro SDR than buy another ICOM SDR-500. And I'd have money left over for other things like, you know, a MLA30 loop and whatever else. Because for me, it performs good enough to do what I want, like I wanted. Plus, it has the display screen, which is kind of interesting. But you know, it's all a question of having, you know, whatever you want and what you like, and that's it. And honestly, these SDRs today at a couple of $100 are just totally amazing. Totally amazing. Philip Briggs says the 10 megahertz time station in Rio de Janeiro seems to be dead lately. Oh, interesting. Interesting. I talked about it in the last utility column. Technical Todd, I noticed you have the Sangean 800A. I just got one in and repaired it. I love it for FM. I carry it around like a security blanket. How do you feel about yours? Okay. I'll just say it's okay. I've purchased that 800A new somewhere in the 90s, early 90s. And I'd say I've never been very happy with its shortwave performance. Maybe in FM it's good. I haven't, you know, I should tune it and use it a little bit just to check it out. I haven't used it in a long time. But on shortwave I've never been very happy. And a lot of FM radio breakthrough through the band also. Dr. Sisop says, be nice to have shortwave band on car stereo. Yeah, it's never been very popular here in North America. Technical Todd says, I got a Texan PL310 ET in today, new in box, and I can say so far it seems terrible. It has too much adjacent frequency interference. It also seems really weak on its ETM and ATS scans. If it performs like my PL380, put it in equivalence, it shouldn't be actually too bad. It shouldn't be too bad because my PL380, but you know I don't have a 310 ET. I've got the original 310, which isn't too bad either. And remember, there's if it's like the 310, you get a bandwidth selection, and you can choose 6, 4, 3, 2, and 1 kilohertz bandwidth. It uses that DSP chip, which is the same DSP chip in a lot of shortwave portables. And for ETM scans, it's not bad, but I noticed that the RadioWow R108, which is probably the one I can compare to the PL310 ET, does receive more stations when it does the ETM scan. Ro Weaver says, Alan Wiener's a shortwave legend, but why would you use Windows 10 to run transmitter? I'll probably use this as a flip phone, but I still love the guy. Well, you know, it's a question of modern transmitters. You know, they're all computerized. So they put on whatever operating system they want to put on to have all the bells and whistles working. You know, it's not a question of Windows 10, honestly. It's more a question of, I think he just doesn't like the fact that it's computerized. He wouldn't be more happy with a Linux run transmitter. I think he just want to have, you know, he prefers having 400 buttons than having one computer that does everything. So, you know. That's interesting, Technical Todd, because my tests, and of course, once again, they are done with the 380 and not the 310 ET. If I would have had 20 frequencies on the RadioWow, I probably would have had 15 on the 380. So not as many, but still not far. I find that you're just finding 4 on yours is kind of weird. Did they scan at the same time also? It's very important. and where they set up on the same thing. Dr. Sisop, try 880 WCBS. It's dark. 880. Here you go.
So they don't have to acknowledge this problem. That doesn't work.
The statute of limitations for forcible rape were lifted more than a decade ago. Extra cops will be on patrol around synagogues in the city during the Jewish High Holy Days. WCBS's Rich Lamb has...
So WCBS coming in well on 880. And that's what I like about the MLA 30. It's that I can now tune the medium wave band because it doesn't have any filters to remove the medium wave band. And the long wave band also. Keisha Escape, nice to have you here. Alex Jones, time on 4840. Radio was enjoying my new MLA 30. Does it compare to my 132 foot and fit at 40 feet? Of course not. But I have to say at $44, yep, it's all relative. And I did cut the RG174 below the preamp and installed RG8. The you know what radio was? It all has to do with one thing. If I compare my loops, so I've got the W6LVP, the MLE 30 now, to my 80-foot sloper. Here in my environment, in my world, here in the smack in the middle of the city, my loops are a million times better because there's less noise. But if you compare the strength of signals from my sloper, if my environment had no noise, I would have more signals on the sloper. So, you know, I talked about it a few weeks ago. If you have low noise, 100 feet wire, which costs a lot less, will perform better than one of those loops. But if you're in a noisy environment, like I am, well, those loops kind of give you back part of your shortwave listening. Ron Deming, sucker game on 11780? It's possible. I believe they have sports from time to time. 11780. Oh, it's almost not there tonight. I got nothing here. So that's the thing. It all depends on how you are set up and the noise around you, honestly. Technical tosses. The thing I like about SDR play and any SDR is the visual ability. That is a big plus, and I gotta say I do have a lot of fun with that. And so many signals I would never have tuned, never have found out they were there without having the visual aspect and seeing these signals are there. Philip Briggs says 9060 kilohertz upper sideband. Sounds like Argentine Spanish. Let's try it out here just for the fun of it. 9060 upper sideband. Who knows? Nothing heard. Let's try the buzzer. Any buzzer? Nope. Radio Progresso from Cuba on 4765. Let's try that with both loops. So that's on the MLA 30, and we'll switch to the W6LVP loop. So it's noisy, but it's there. It's interesting how the W6LVP is noisier. It's still there. I would say it's still there in the same level. But what makes it different with the MLE 30 is there's less noise in it. And I noticed that this afternoon also on the 19 meter band, the BBC 15400. I could barely hear it on the W6LVP loop because of the noise, and I could actually make out what they were saying, even if it was not very strong, on the ML830. And that's maybe what is defining the both antennas, is that simple little thing. Less noise on the ML830 than on the W6LVP loop. And it makes a big difference, because it makes a difference between having difficulty listening to something and actually hearing something. Kishascape. I've seen people like that $4,000 radio a lot. They are appliance operators, and the expensive radio makes up for their lack of skills. Yeah, not everybody. I mean, you know, a lot of people have those really expensive radios and now know how to use them. Where I have a problem is not on spending, you know, $5,000 on a radio. If you know how to operate, and if you really want it because it really is great. The thing is, you know, okay, go for it. I mean, yeah, $5,000 radio, I'm sure has a little edge, a little something more than you will have on a an RSP-1A, for example. But that said, you know, these receivers like the RSP-1A and AirSpy and a lot of these little SDRs that are a lot less expensive than buying these really big tabletops, they are amazing for the price. And where I stop is not that you buy a $5,000 radio. It's fine. If you got the money for it, yeah, why not? Where I have a hard time is when, because you bought a $5,000 radio, you suddenly cannot accept that a $200 radio might actually be surprisingly good, as if all things below $1,000 are crappy, you know? It's like, I see a lot of people kind of in the, you know, just look at my ML830 loop. Okay, it's roughly $50 US. You know, I've seen it at 44 US bucks, which I think is the one that I purchased, and that made it into 58 Canadian dollars total. So I was about to say, I completely forgot what I was about to say. So we were talking about expensive radios and stuff. Oh, darn it, I forgot what I was about to say. I got distracted in the performance out of it. Anyway, so, you know, you look at my antenna and, oh, okay, yeah, I got it. So I was reading yesterday, actually, thanks to the shortwavelistening.com, SWL.com, SWLING.com website. They posted a review, a guided review of the ML830 loop. And of course, since I was waiting for mine, I was very curious about it. I read his review, and his review is, man, that thing is really amazing for the price paid. But he was mentioning how he got tons of ranting because of people saying, well, you know, it can't be as good as a Wellbrook, and it's cheap Chinese junk, and it can't be as good as a W6LVP loop made in the USA, and blah, blah, blah. And that's what I hate. It's when somebody just rants without giving any reason. I mean, there's obviously a difference when you look at both antennas. You guys have talked about it. I've posted a few videos. Yeah, one looks kind of flimsy a little, you know, just a little steel round thing with that little box, and, you know, it's kind of, yeah, okay. The W6LVP looks, you know, big, huge. It seems like more quality, and it is totally possible that it is. But it's not because I purchased a $500 antenna that I can't read something about a $50 antenna and think, wow, that thing is good. And actually, when I put it up, I was not expecting the results that I have out of the MLA30. I was not expecting that thing to perform as well, and in some cases, better than my W6LVP loop. It totally caught me off guard. And actually, I was telling Fastload on my Facebook page, if I had known that the MLA30 performed that well, I would probably never purchase a W6LVP. I would have purchased 2 MLA30 instead. Less expensive, and I would have had 2 loops. I could have positioned them differently, and it would have been nice. So, you know, it's kind of interesting because, I mean, wow. I am totally amazed at that antenna. And we're going to talk a little bit about it because some people have questions that they don't understand exactly the workings of the loops. So we're just going to go a little faster in the chat here, and we're going to talk about it. What else do we have? David Green, I'd like Conicom. Let me just go back here. So yeah. Okay. I should be pretty much here. So David Green likes a Conicom or something similar in form for shortwave, but I don't know what the model names are now. Well, you can get, if you want to have like the Conicom GP5 SSB, it's known as the Texan PL365. That's the same radio actually. The Conicom GP5 is made by Texan, and it is still sold on eBay for as a Texan PL365. If you're looking for that same form factor as the GP5 SSB from Conicom. Technical Todd says, here's the thought. Get a $50 loop and an SDR play for a total of $150 and really have some performance out of the door for less than what a mint flagship used on eBay would cost. Oh, absolutely. And you'll have a lot of fun, actually. The Radio Geek, nice to have you here. Spend the money on the antenna rather than the radio. Well, the antenna is very, very important. That's for sure. I mean, the best radio in the world won't perform well if you don't have a good antenna. So, that's very important. Philip Briggs agrees 100% with your RSP1A comments with an ICOM AH710 antenna. Nice setup. So, you know, it's pretty cool, actually. Butterbean says, I have a $50 tube radio that sounds as good as my 1500 AM ring. Super 20 Dan, nice to have you here. Just ordered his MLA30. So he's going to sell tons of them because of my reviews and my talk about it. Oh, man. David Green, I've tried our RTL SDR, AirSpy, HF Plus, portables, desktop, and RSP1A. I really thought HF Plus was the Omega, but RSP1A honestly performs, I guess, maybe. AirSpy, HF Plus filters noise well, but it loses integrity. Technical Todd says PL380 pulled in 20 frequencies. Huh. David Green says I have a couple of scanners that are really totally separate things. There's that, but I have a Texan S2000 because it is nice when I just want to kick back and listen to shortwave, AM, and FM. WF7I Ombro, nice to have you on board from Virginia. Jefferson says everyone's a moderator. Yeah, it goes pretty much like that. Kisha Escape, I saw a MLA30 on eBay that came with adapter cable for 3.5mm jack portables. Oh, really? Included? Wow, that's nice. That is nice. That could be really cool for somebody that has portable receivers. The only thing I'm scared of that is how a portable receiver will react to the performance of a pretty good loop like that, the MLA30. Yeah, Butterbean. You know what I like? The smell of tube radios is, especially in the winter time, you know, when it's cold and you turn on that tube radio and you feel the warmth from the tubes, and of course that smell is it's like brand new electronics smell. Anybody buys electronics, you know what I talk about. There's that brand new smell of electronics. It's kind of very, very unique. Dave Todd said, I saw the MLA30 is probably optimized for medium wave and long wave. It's optimized for shortwave, Dave. It's optimized for medium wave and shortwave, not medium wave and long wave. Actually, on the website where I purchased it, it was very specifically said medium wave and shortwave. It didn't mention long wave really, and I believe it's a wideband loop, a little bit like the W6LVP. So you know, Christmas music on 5085, really? Technical Todd, amen, Joe, on the noise issue being lessened by the loops. No problem, Radioactive. It's nice to have you here. Kind of early for Christmas music, absolutely. Oh, Radioactive. Antennas are down. Hope you can put them up soon. WF7i Homebrew listened to Longwave this weekend. Logged 15 non-directional beacons using Homebrew loop antenna and homemade up converter. Longest distance, 1,500 miles, Puerto Rico. Wow. Pretty cool. Butterbean, do you have a coax T? Be cool to see how both antennas work together. No, I don't. And the problem is that these are the connectors are SMA, and I don't have anything that has SMA. You know, the RSP1A and even the Soft 66 are the first ever devices that I had that has SMA connectors rather than either BNC or PL259 or so on. So I don't have anything that goes with that, the SMA stuff. So Technical Todd says, after you installed your loop, I went out and waterproofed my MLA30 with flex glue, all metal fittings coming out both sides, and also the cable below. And now it's sealed forever. But that's probably a good idea, honestly. For the demonstration of how it's going to be, will be leaving it, I don't know, I might be sealing it a little bit with some stuff. You know, I mean, I'll have to seal the W6LVP for winter, so might as well seal the other one also a little bit, I guess. So Technical Todd says, I saw, what do we have? So Technical Todd, I saw your first video this morning, and it's obvious you jumped right in like I did. Like, man, this is not that hard, and it's going up, baby. Look, I was surprised. I got this little box. So the box is this big. You know, let's put it like this big. And I mean wide like my hands, and about, you know, this big. And when I looked at the box, I thought, what is that? I was not expecting such a small package for the MLA30. So I was trying to think hard, what else did I order, or what else am I waiting for that could be in a small box like that? Or you know, thinking, did somebody send me something? What could that be? And I opened the box, take everything out, and it's like, oh man, I see the box that says MLA30, and I'm like, that's the loop in such a small package. So the way that it's done is very well, you know, packaged so that it takes the least amount of space possible. It's a little bit like the when I got the W6LVP. It comes obviously in a bigger box, but it still was a smaller box than I was expecting. Because you see the loop and you're like, well, you know, you don't think about the fact that they kind of put the loop in a way that it takes the least amount of space possible. And the first thing that I did was, okay, it's all out. Let's do the first video of that's what's the box that's in the box. And it's funny because I was about to make other videos because I had to do videos on my tech channels and all of that, but I was looking at it and it was like, okay, this is simple. And I got a dollar store like just almost across the street from here. So I was like, oh, if I go to the dollar store, I can buy the the broomsticks for like $2 and install it with broomsticks and tie wraps and you know, as good as I can, but I can do that. So the first thing is I went to the dollar store, I bought the broomsticks, and then I came back, I started putting all of it together and it looked nice. Then it's, well, I want to put it outside now. And my first tests were, it was just hanging on the balcony like with a little angle, but performance was crappy. I thought maybe that's a performance and it's going to be crappy compared to my W6LVP. But when I actually set it up right, a little higher in the air, that's when I saw that, oh, no, it's actually really good. So it didn't take long. I had to get that thing up and running. It was really, really amazing. And there's some nice things about the ML830. So I'm going to go down a little bit more, trying not to stay too far behind in the chat. We're going to continue talking about the W6LVP loop and the ML830 loop and talk about that for sure. David Green says, my original ML830 orientation was a hot mess. Sloppy box attachment and angle. Top of loop taped to the PVC. Fixed it after Joe's video today. The hole and the top of the mast is very good. Yeah, because the top part that what I used is a plastic broomstick, and it had a hole in the top. And if it did not have a hole, I would have used my drill and drilled a hole in the middle so that the loop passes with inside the stick, the plastic stick, because you know it's got to stay as good as possible. I did add a tie wrap at the top because the hole is like this big and it's a very thin metal wire, so it was kind of flapping with the wind. So I put a tie wrap to actually attach it to make sure that it doesn't move from the top. And of course, then I put, you know, the wooden broomstick to put it a little higher. So it you know, was kind of easy to set up and nice to set up correctly and have it set up in same orientation, because you know, for test purposes it's a loop. Same orientation as W6LVP loop, roughly the same height if possible. That loop is much smaller than the W6LVP. I kind of like that, honestly, because it has a smaller footprint, takes less space. You know, W6LVP loop is kind of a big loop when you look at it. Radioactive says, I have a hard time with $5,000 radio when I have to replace it when it gets lightning strike. Yeah. Nick Mayakovsky, are you equipped to listen to anything ultra low like 60 kilohertz or 77.5? I believe there are clock signals in Europe on these frequencies. Was wondering if you have similar Canada, US. There's WWVB from Colorado on 60 kilohertz that I've never heard ever in my life. That we could try. This thing goes to 60 kilohertz, but I don't think I. So 60. Well, actually, because of the low frequency, it doesn't go there. So let's go to, let's just put this very close to where I'm listening. Here we go. Let's try 60. 60 kilohertz. No, I can't go down to 60. Let's go to 100. Man, 200. Okay, I'll need to check out the low frequency here. So here we go. Here it's at 60 kilohertz. So this is 60 kilohertz. I don't hear anything. Neither do I see anything. But I do hear, for example, non-directional beacons, 248. Look at that. That's from the local airport. So that's 248 kilohertz. Which is fun. Also, the fact that my loop actually has that capability of going down to long wave now. Matt, nice to have you here, my friend. No problem at all. Take care. What else do we have? Let me just go down here. Try to okay. Mark Cope, it's all about bang for the buck for me. Happy with the PL660, RSP1A, and 50-foot wire. Absolutely, Mark Cope. You know, that's a nice setup, and if your setup's right, it's like, I'll always say, I remember somebody saw that I had a my Fender Stratocaster guitar, and he said, "Oh man, I'd like to play, you know, guitar with that." And I remember he had a, like, I don't know, a cheap $150 guitar, and I picked it up and I did a few chords, and he was like, "Oh wow," and that it sounds nice. And I said, you know what? Rather than wanting a Fender Stratocaster guitar, just learn how to play correctly. Because that $150 guitar, yeah, it's not the best. It does a darn good job at whatever it needs to do. And you have a guitar. So you can have a $10,000 radio. And if we were all from, millionaires, we probably would enjoy having some of these $10,000 radios, of course. But I'd rather have somebody telling me he's listening to shortwave actively and listening to tons of things on his text and receiver than somebody that's got the brand new ICOM ICRD 600 and tunes it once a month for an hour and turns it off and doesn't tune again for another month. What's the use in having a nice radio like that if you don't use it? So, that's the important thing. Miki Dalmich, almost gray line here, so Radio Free Asia via Tajikistan, 13765, booming in here. Wow, okay. Bands seem to be dead here above just 25-meter band is very, very quiet. Let's check 31 meters. Even 31 meters is very quiet tonight. The bands don't seem to be on top shape tonight. I'm not even getting WRMI. I'm getting WRMI 7780.
Service bulletin number 30 is dated just 1 month later, October the 1st, 1919, and it contained a listing of all new radio licenses.
So let's compare that signal 7780 with MLA30.
This issue presents the first listing for the new radio station WWZ in Washington, D.C.
And W6LVP.
Station as NSJ.
Sound the same.
Thus, the licenses for the combined usage of the new wireless.
This is the W6LVP.
Standards in Washington, D.C. Stations WWV and MSJ were issued sometime
And now back
October the 1st.
back to the MLA30. Even sounds actually better on the MLA30.
WBCQ accepts the date for its initial license as the definitive date, October the 1st, 1919, which is the date when the initial listing was first published in Radio Service Bulletin number 30 from the Department of...
That sounds like AWR Wavescan or something. So, you know, that MLA30 is amazing, I gotta say. Dave Todd says, I have had the RSP2 Pro over 2 years now and have had an Icon 71A close to 30 years. There is no way I could justify the expense of a top-of-the-line Icon or whatever today. I would kind of agree with that when I look at the RSP1A performance. You know, honestly. Michael says, I started with an Heathkit GR60, a 60-foot long wire in 73, received QSLs from all over the world. I started with a realistic DX100, which is a crappy radio, honestly. When you compare that today, I started off with one of the crappiest radios. And I listened and had so many, you know, stations and QSLs and fun with that. It's, you know, and when you don't know there's better, you don't miss what's better when you never had it. Let's face it. Well, you know what, Radioactive, I would, if it wasn't from the W6LVP, I would have had like 2-3 MLA30s, I can tell you that. And as you say, better quality does not necessarily mean better performance, and that is totally true in what I see here on the MLA30. I'm Extra, nice to have you on board. Says thanks for the stream. Just got the Xiegu G90. Super excited to play around with it. What is that? I've never checked that out. I've never heard that name. Wow. Billy Laptop, nice to have you here. Just bought an MLA30 based upon your comments this evening. Looks like a winner. Absolutely. Dr. Sisop, do a long wave scan. Now you'll get only non-directional beacons and some maritime telemetry stuff. Technical Todd, the Chinese will be paying Gilles tariffs on his sales of antennas. I should actually order some before the tariffs go even higher and sell them direct from Canada. Well, Big Asia, nice to have you on board, my friend. Where are you located? We are located here in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, where it's 9:38 p.m. Jerf, nice to have you here, my friend. Radioactive, the only thing I would like to change on the MLA30 is change the coax to RG8X or better. Yeah, well, I guess if you open it, you can probably do the modifications to it. Well, Big Gus, yeah, I've read about U-loop stuff, but I've not really seen anything about it. Technical Todd, connected alligator clip to the V115 and it's still a piece of crap. Yeah, it's not, you know, it does so much for the price that it's like, you know. Super 20 Dan says, I got a Grundig G3 and the G5 is actually better. No probable handheld beats the G5 on SSB. G5 is amazing. Hey Sheldon Harvey, nice to have you here from Greenfield Park, Quebec. Now I know what you're going to set up on your deck in your backyard to have good shortwave reception rather than that wire. You need to have the MLA30 loop that I just received today. It's a darn winner, I can tell you that.
WWV's centenary. During the last part of August and the first week of September, Wavescan was on the road or in the air from Miami.
Yeah, that's the AWR Wavescan 7780 kilohertz on WRMI. Michael Satterfield, would you post a link to the one you bought so I could get fast shipping? Is it still like that? Yeah, it's here. I bought it from the link that I'm posting right now. He's the guy that I got it from. It took exactly a week. I mean, when was it when I purchased it? Wednesday of last week? Tuesday or Wednesday of last week? It's barely a week. And I got it. Yeah, the G5s do have that sticky goo on it though. Yeah, Christmas music on 5085 WTWW apparently. Technical Todd, I wondered how the Buzz Aldrin compared to the G5. I know it's a G6, but haven't had any experience. Yeah, it looks nice, but I have no experience of the G6, honestly. Super 20 Dan, best handheld I have used for sure. My neighbor had Texan 660 and the G5 blows it away. G5 is amazing. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody getting a decent price on the Grundig G5, get that portable. One of the best portables that exists. Can tell you that. Discerning what is true. Nice to have you here. I have a question about what is occurring on shortwave. Poor conditions here in South Carolina. I have an Ethon E1 XM radio with a loop antenna. Is there a way to eliminate white noise? You know, that is a big problem for our hobby. Noise is everywhere, and you know, so you got a loop antenna, which already is something that kind of helps out somehow. But you know, in some cases, it's really sad, but in some cases, you just got to move and listen to radio somewhere else. It's crazy, but in some cases there's no magic. Sorry, I was reading something that distracted me, but in some cases there's unfortunately no magical way of removing the noise, which is very sad because, you know, like I say often, there's a way, there's something that you know you listen to, and there's a way to, you'd like to listen to your favorite radio in your favorite room in your favorite chair. Yeah, that's what we were doing in the 80s, and it was cool, but you can't anymore sometimes. It's really crazy. Just crazy. Technical Todd. He's a Texan fanboy. He's got the 310, 360, 380, 600, 660, and 880. Which one you prefer in all of those? Pretty much the question Brent is asking also, just out of curiosity. Yeah, but try to put the antenna, like Keisha Escape says, as far away from your home as possible. Fishcock, good evening, Joel. If you DIY the ML830, how much would you estimate it could come out to? Oops, let me just, I'm just gonna check something here before I answer your question, cause seem to have a little problem. Okay. Okay. If you make your own, so sorry, because there was something weird happening here, but it seems okay. So okay, you know what? There's a guy, and I'm gonna just find his place here. Now it's not an amplified loop, and that's the difference, though. So W1 loop antenna. So there's a guy, W1 something. I'm trying to find a guy that makes a loop antenna that you can make at home for really a very small amount of money. And it could be interesting. Honestly, the thing is, and the biggest problem with the ML830 and these loops is that it does have a low noise amplifier. And that's the thing, is how and what are the parts and how much would it come out to if you make your own with a low noise amplifier on it? That's really the question. What I would say, Fishkoff, honestly, is at 44 US dollars, the MLA30 is so good that instead of, you know, it's of course, if you want to have the fun of creating something and making it yourself, that's one thing. It's very different. But if you're looking at trying to get the best price for something like that, maybe you find it, you know, less expensive to do it yourself, I would say just buy the MLA30. If you'd ask me the same question, if you make your own W6 LVP loop, you definitely will save a lot of money if you do it yourself, because it's very expensive. I'm sorry, but somebody told me the other day, you sound like you still find your loop, W6 LVP loop, expensive. It is. It is, like the Walbrook. I'm sorry, it ain't worth that amount of money. I can't, it's nice, but I still can't understand that it's worth that amount of money. And especially now that I've got two loops and that I compare the loop to the sloper, to the, you know, with the noise environment. What is the problem with a very expensive loop like the W6 LVP is you will buy a several $100 antenna for that maybe won't improve that much upon your listening. That's where the problem is. If that thing removed all the noise and all shortwave stations came back like in the 80s with no noise, I'd say the hell yeah, spend $500. But I cannot, I'm sorry, I cannot honestly tell someone to spend $500 on a loop, because I'm not convinced that in your area it might improve enough that you'll be happy. You might actually be not happy because you spent $500 on that rather than something else. But now the MLA30 solves that problem at 44 US dollars. Okay? I tell you, you can't go wrong. It's not expensive, and I am blown away by the performance, honestly. Blown away by the performance. So you tried that the other day, discerning what is true. Wow. Have you taken your radio, like, you know, I know the radio you got is pretty big and it's not super portable, but just to try it in a park or somewhere far away from homes. And what are you trying to listen to also is important. Yeah, the inside of the loop has of the MLA30, the circuit has a compound on it. Well, regards to the show, everyone, do you guys have an analog portable receiver around the size of DGen 1103 to Texan 660 that you would recommend, especially for AM and FM? On the FM side of things, the Grundig G5 is one of the most amazing radios for FM DXers, honestly. Yeah, a lot of receivers have that chuff, yeah, that chugging, unfortunately. That is an annoying thing, honestly. Oh, Dave Todd, yes, an RSP Duo. That's what I need. Maybe that's the next thing I should buy. Upgrade my RSP-1A to a RSP Duo. What else do we have? Hey, Keegan. Nice to have you on board from Northwest Arkansas. Gerf says, went to the phase of DXing non-directional beacons. Lots of fun. Copied a few in Europe, South America, and Asia. I would do that in the 80s when I had low noise, and I had a lot of fun listening to some of them. I remember being super happy because I had received the one in, what was it, Bermuda, I think. William Helms says, I had a G5. I think I had a static electricity extended with it. That's something you got to be careful, honestly, in portables, because it's easy to zap the input circuitry. Discerning what is true. The loop antenna is a W6LVP. I have a great reception on it for the past 6 months, but it is not working well. I also have a Alpha Delta DX Ultra antenna inverted V, no better. Maybe something changed in your area and some noise that wasn't there before is there now. Radio was, says this MLA30 on a cheap TV rotator. Absolutely. No lot of signals. Kevin Walkowski, nice to have you here. About it, MLA30 last night. Offer accepted at 3501. Cool. If a guy wants to send it at 35 bucks, but even the buy now at 44 bucks, it's great. Just get it. WF7i Ombru, has anyone received ham signals in the 472 to 479 kilohertz or 135.7, 137.8? I haven't done a lot of monitoring, but even with a good antenna, I have not heard anything. And you know, I'm amazed because I see these logs sometimes of people in the long wave band receiving tons of things there, and I'm like, what the hell? I never received anything there. Keisha Escape says, my ham friend does exactly what you say, Gilles. Huge full wave, 80 meter loop, $2,000 radio, 260-foot tower, never uses it except once every few months. Yeah, you know, just crazy. Radioactive signal sounds cleaner on the MLA30. A lot of the signals sound cleaner on MLA30, I gotta say that. I gotta tell you that. Kevin Wachowski says, I'll bet the cost goes up after Gilles' positive advertisement show tonight. They'll be twice the price tomorrow. Instead of 44, they're going to cost 88 bucks. And that's all because of me. Bobby Burgess says 5850, WRMI strong. Oh, man. Jeff King started out as a teenager with a GE10 band. Did great for me. Yeah, we all started with, a lot of us started with multi-band radios, honestly. I can tell you that. Just crazy. What else do we have here? Voice of Grace, Weekend, Colorado, 9420. This is Gerf. Welby. Okay, Welby, like Marcus Welby. Oh wow, Marcus Welby. I haven't. That brings back memories. Welby, cool. Welby Garcia, in Porto Alegre, South Brazil. Nice to have you here. Yeah, the Eton satellite, Grande Eton satellite are pretty nice too. Absolutely. That would be nice, Keisha Escape. Actually, I have a GoFundMe that I've started, but I have not advertised and not done anything with, which would be used to maybe put myself on the air. Actually, I haven't talked about to Sheldon Harvey about it, but I have an interesting idea of doing a 1 hour shortwave via WRMI, where 30 minutes would be a rebroadcast of the International Radar Report. 30 minutes would be a kind of a Gilles show of some sort that I would do every week. I kind of feel like I want to do that. And I have a GoFundMe that I've started, but I've done nothing yet, because I gotta say, you know, I ask you guys for donations and stuff, but every week when I do that, I hate asking for money. It's something that is, of all the things that I do, I love doing what I do, but man, I hate always bugging you guys for, you know, PayPal donations and stuff. I feel like, you know, that beggar at the corner of the street every morning, every Sunday morning when I go to CKUT, the same beggar is there with like, you have change. I feel like that when I ask for something for donations, and I really hate it. But then again, it's kind of necessary. So I haven't done anything with it because I thought, I'm going to annoy everybody with some more, hey, give me money for something. And we'll see. Anyways. Technical Todd says, I got a 450 field radio like the one behind Jill, and it sucks for now. I need to tune it right now. It's a dog. There's a lot of, be careful because there's a lot of quality control problems on the S450. And a lot of them have been, returned because they have that problem. Jill and Paul DX, the cat show. I like that. Oh, man. What else do we have? Slowly going down. No, it's not W1GV. It's another call that I'm trying to remember for the loop. I'm trying to get closer to you guys because I'm a little far behind. We'll be there. I'm exactly 14 minutes behind. What else we have? What else we have? What else we have? They sell 15-watt FM transmitters on eBay for $65. That'd be good to do a pirate station. I never do a pirate station on FM. I do a pirate station on shortwave. That's the cool way to be. Pirate stations on shortwave. David Green says, I really like being able to come here and talk about what signals they hear with frequencies. Are there any IRC channels, is that still the thing, where I could chat about shortwave anytime? If you're on Facebook, there's a few Facebook groups that you can go to, that you can ask to be a member, and there's a lot of people talking about shortwave there. I guess the old what's the name of the old IRC channel where I was before? You know? That sometimes has activity, but IRC channels are kind of a little dead now today. Sheldon has a question which is interesting. If you were in a perfect quiet environment, would you prefer one of your loops or your sloper? What do you think would work best? Okay, remove the noise around me. My sloper beats the loops. And that I know. Because if I purely look at just signal level, which in a perfect environment would be pretty much the only thing you want to look at, my sloper gets all the signals of the loops. It's just that it's washed out in the noise because it's getting noise with it. But if I, for example, an example that I was looking at a week ago, I was listening to Halifax Weather 2749 upper sideband, which is clear, crystal clear on my loops. On the sloper, it's there in the noise. But the S meter on the sloper was peaking higher when it was talking. Kind of telling me that in reality, I get more signal on my sloper. But because it's getting just noise with it, it washes out. On the loops, the S meter was maybe 2 or 3 S units lower. But because it's much quieter, it was easy listening. So it's not just with that signal. It's many signals that I've seen. I got better signal on the sloper. It's just that the sloper gets too much noise, so impossible to listen. Remove the noise around it, my sloper would be better. But in the environment where I live now, loop is the way to go. It seems loop is really the way to go to get a little bit more. Discerning what is true. Yes, noise has appeared. Look for here in the house, and noise was there today with power out in the home. So that means your neighbor, one of your neighbors, has got something that's creating more noise. And that's one of the biggest problems. You got no control over your neighbors. Dr. Sisop says when he was in Bermuda last year, he could pick up WCBS 880, which doesn't surprise me. And stations in Florida and North Carolina. FM, nothing but local. Shortwave was amazing. Got Europe and US. Cool. Welcome back, Bobby. 4885 is Club do Para Brazil. Let's see if I can hear it here. Nothing much right now. The Rebel Day on 5025. It's kind of interesting. Is nothing. Yeah, it's not very strong, but I got Guatemala 4055, but it's mostly nice. Let's check. So this is Halifax, Nova Scotia weather, 2749 upper sideband. We're going to compare the W6LBP loop and the MLA30. 2749 upper sideband. I actually got two stations. That's MLA30. That's signal S meter. Peaking at 7. Pretty much peaking at 7. W6LBP. Exactly peaking S7. Exactly the same signal in this case. Imagine $500 versus $50. You're at $500 right now. And now let's go at $50. Same thing. Same thing. I'm sorry, but I am saying one thing tonight. Buy an MLA30 and forget these expensive loops. You're wasting your money if you're buying a Wellbrook or you're buying a W6LBP loop. Buy the MLA30, $44 US. That thing kicks butt and is amazing. I'm just baffled and amazed at that thing for the price. Technical Todd, I would have given $150 for my MLA30 because it opened the world up for this guy. My pin map of the world has pins in it now from Madagascar, Botswana, Beijing, Mongolia, France, Germany, Wolverton. Cool. Terry Cook, magnetic loops made of small coupling loop and a larger loop available in a variable capacitor make a nice QRP antenna for amateur radio use. And they are very inexpensive to build yourself also. Really nice. Really nice. What else do we have? Kevin Woods set up a MeWe chat but have not gone live yet. Kevin Wood says, I get $27.49 on my toaster here. I bet you're probably really close. That reminds me of when at the CIDX barbecue when we had Amanda Dawn Christie and saying that she was listening to RCI in her sink. Oh man, this is crazy. Technical Todd, you guys buying the MLA, look around the house for a ferret core on an old cable and put it in your ISB cable feeding the box next to the box helps keep the power clean. By the way, I'm powering the loop because I'm gonna go down just quickly. I want to make sure that everything is all right, and I talk about I'm not missing anything because I'm pretty much down to let's go here. No Kish Escape, because on 1040 here we have a local station that is in Saint-Constant. So I usually get that station here. Electricity subsidy MLA cheaper. You know, I'll be very honest. At 44 bucks, buy it now. Why go crazy over saving 5 or 10 bucks? Honestly, you know, I mean, there's a limit of let's save money. At 44 bucks US, just buy it. Just buy it. Tony Turtle, nice to have you here. Technical Todd, wow, we need to hire shell protection now from the big money loophole people. I am from the big money loop. You know, it's like it's gonna be a cartel of loop. I'm gonna go and say, hey, we gotta raise the price of the loop antennas because it's too low. Let's just make a cartel of loop antennas. I'll send them, you know, like $1,000. That's an interesting question, Radioactive. What is interesting with the MLA30 is it could be easy to create your own loop. So, you know what, Radioactive, you're giving me an idea that at the price that it is, I should purchase a second one. And instead of putting that loop on it, use aluminum tubing and create a bigger loop on the same connections and see how it goes and compare both. I would tend to think that, because, okay, I don't know how the circuitry of the loop, magnetic loop, is done. And maybe it's designed for the size of the loop that's there. But I would think that the bigger the loop, the more signal you get in. The drawback of that is you might risk, in some cases, like here in Montreal with very strong stations, you might risk overloading the amplification circuit. But that's an amazing thing that I actually did think today, because I saw when how it was built, and I thought, wow, it's super easy to kind of put my own little loop on that thing, which would be bigger, and see if it changes something. And it's a great question, actually. Yes, I got wine tonight, Bobby Burgess. I'm, you know, I got my MLA30 loop, and since I saved $450, I thought, I got cash for wine tonight. Why spend on beer? Cheers, everybody. Oh, God. You know, these Wednesday shows are kind of fun. I'm having a lot of fun tonight again. I was a little worried on the Wednesday shows that I might be doing kind of overdoing it, but you know what? No, it's actually giving me more, kind of bringing me more into the fun of doing live shows and stuff. I like doing live shows, honestly. And it's kind of cool, you know. Well, actually, what I will do, William, is that I am going to go. I saw that here in at Distant Electronic, they have a SMA to PL259 adapter for $3. I'm gonna go purchase one, and I will actually, with that, be able to connect the loops on my ICOM, and we'll do the same test if you want. But on the ICOM at ICR8500. That's exactly what I was thinking, Technical Todd. That loop is probably designed for the size that it has. And that's the thing. It might actually be not be better, honestly. Kimberly, K6YYL in California. Nice to have you here. Vianney Arsenault, bonjour et bienvenue à Gaspésie. Toujours un plaisir. 15140. 15140. I got nothing there. Got nothing. Radioactive. Need gel to protect us from the black old loop antennas. Oh, man. Okay. Oh my God, so many people here. Yeah, copper tubing. You can, use copper tubing from like, pipe tubing or something like that. 3830 radio, man. Absolutely. Dave Todd, question. I see the preamp on the MLA30 works at 5 volt. Is it possible to power it at the bias T SDR play 4.7, or do you need a power adapter that comes with it? Okay, hey Dave, I saw your question today, and I'm happy you're in the chat. So, okay, here's I'm going to show you guys how a loop antenna works. Both the W6LVP and the MLA30 work in the same way, okay? And that is something that is a big mystery for a lot of people, by the way. Okay, this thing here, I'm going to show you guys, is, so this thing, and I don't know if you guys see, okay, here's the little white light that's on right now because it's powered. This is the equivalent on the W6LVP, they call it the power inserter. So what's this? This thing has 3 connections. One of them is for power. And I'm using, and you guys, I can show you guys, I'm using this old iPhone 5 Cube to power my MLA30. I was scared that it was going to do a lot of noise. It's not. It's super quiet. Because I powered it off a battery pack and I see no difference. So that's the first thing that I actually did as a test. Because I thought, well, that thing might induce noise in the loop and it's going to be hell. No, it's not at all. And it's really nice. This thing is powered because the loop outside has a little box on it, like the W6LVP loop. That's where the low noise amplifier is, and all the circuitry that goes with the loop is in that box outside. Which means, to antenna, this wire here goes through my window up to the loop. It powers the loop. It gives it all the juice that it needs to have it working correctly. And at the same time that it powers the loop, it also sends back the signal, which is sent to this connector that goes to the receiver. So all of that is happening in here and over there. Now, for your question, on this box, it doesn't say, but outside on the amplification box, it says 4 to 14 volts. So that means that if it's well written, you could power it anywhere from 4. You can shove it 12 volts in it. It's supposed to work. It's probably regulated over there. There's probably a regulator. Wow, this is kind of slow. Something happened here. So anyways, there's a power regulation over there, because it does say 4 to 14 volts. So that means you probably can power it with 4.7. And you know, remember that electronics that have specific voltage are 10% tolerant usually, plus or minus 10%, which means at 5 volts, 10% is 4.5. 4.7 probably will work. But in the case where there it says 4.4 to 14, that means if you don't give it 5 volts like I do now with that little cube thing, you could probably power it with 12 volts if you want. Find a way to power it really well. What I like about the fact that there's this and the way that it's done is that you can use a little, you know, those chargers like I have here. I have one with a solar charger for the phone. So you can recharge the charger and like use it to power up the antenna. One thing that I like of the MLA30 loop, it's so small that I can see myself going to Perry Island or anywhere and using that as my main antenna for DXing. Power it with that little power adapter, the power pack that I use for my phone. That would work great. What I like about the MLA30 that I hate of the W6LVP, I'm sorry man, but there's one thing that I do not accept on the W6LVP. For the price paid, can I at least have 20 to 30 feet of BNC to BNC coax cable? Please? Because I had a hell of a time finding a cable that was, you know, yeah, on eBay it's there. But I didn't want to wait 2 weeks to get a cable to try it out. So I went to electronic stores around here and getting a BNC male to BNC male with a coax was a hell of a tough thing to do. So why don't you give that darn cable for the price? I'm sorry, but it's expensive. When you don't, it's, you know, I'm gonna rant a little bit there, but you know, come on, okay? I know. But yes, you will. You'll be able to do it. So at 4.7, yeah, it's gonna work. That is possible, radioactive. By adding a bigger loop, more long wave, that's possible. Absolutely. Absolutely. Keisha Escape. Are the vulgar ham frequencies on the East Coast, USA, like we used to have 3840, 7255, 14313? They've moved a little bit. They're like more like 14313 is still there, but 7200 is the new trash ham frequency. And I think 3860 is the other trash frequency, pretty much. Tony Turtle. Well, Kimberly, I'm happy to do these Wednesday evening shows, and it's kind of nice because it's middle of the week, and you know, because a week and a half before you get to the weekend. Vianney, just back home, but I'm working tomorrow. I want to pass time with you for a moment. Cool. Cool, Vianney. It's nice to have you on board. Sheldon says, on this day, September 1878, one of the best TV comedies ever aired, its first episode, WKRP in Cincinnati. Oh, man. Oh, man. I remember that. WKRP. You know why I remember the most of WKRP was just so funny? Is I was coming back to school, and when I was in 6th grade, and I always wanted to watch Scooby-Doo. And I don't remember on what channel it was, but they would play, when I would get back from school at like 4 p.m., WKRP was playing, and Scooby-Doo was like at 4:30 p.m. It was kind of funny, but oh man. Technical Todd, Jill's balcony now forever will look like landing arrays at the airport. Better install the lights, Jill. You know what's the funniest thing here? Is that is that I see people on the street, because here there's a lot of trees. So unless you really pass in front of, you don't necessarily see the loops much. And honestly, what brings attention is really the W6LVP loop, because the MLA30 is just so small that it's like, you know, you might miss it. But everybody that passes in the street, I always, I look from time to time and they just like, yeah, what's that? And I can imagine the other side of the street watching my balcony and saying, what the hell is that guy doing? There was actually a woman intensely looking at me this morning when I was setting up the MLA30, kind of wondering, what the hell are you doing? You got that big loop thing, and now you got that small loop thing. And she was just looking like, what is that? And I was like, yeah, who cares? No problem, William. Kenwood is the old one. That was the icon. But yeah, I will do it, William. Absolutely. Technical Todd. Amplifies the signal at the source so its ratio stays good all the way shielded to the back of your radio. Yep. Yep. Man, WKRP in Cincinnati. Johnny Fever, yeah. Oh, man. What was it? What was Lonnie Anderson, the blonde girl at the station? Radioactive. Speaking of power regulators and the low noise amplifier, probably capacitive. Dropper seeing it from China. It's possible. It's possible. Kevin Wachowski says, the perfect material for an enhanced loop is flexible copper tubing, primarily used as a water line for refrigerator, freezer, ice makers. Comes in different diameters and is inexpensive. I'll check that up. It could be interesting to try it out with a different size loop and see what it does, where it goes to. Circuitous vibe. So I tried just coiling some copper wire lined around the antenna in my portable Grundig. Daylight, no difference. Now that it's dark, pretty good reception despite the noise. Thanks. Okay, cool. And remember, a lot of it has to hang somewhere outside. Page Master, nice to have you here. Build my own coax cables with whatever connector I place on it. Oh man. Welby Garcia, any birdies or ashes with the loop? Now here's the interesting part, okay? The interesting part of this is that when I purchased the W6LVP loop, the guy insisted that I purchase a, let me just punch in a frequency here. Let's see, so 5505. Yeah, let's see if we can get some better signal somewhere. So 80 meter band isn't bad. Let's check 160 meters out of curiosity. Yeah, 160 meters. Look at that. Okay. 1963. 1963 lower sideband. Let's compare the two loops before I continue what I was about to say. This is the MLA30. Of course, he stopped talking, but that's the other guy.
The old house had a
This is W6LVP. I see no difference. No difference. Really, no difference. Let's go back. MLA 30. Why spend $500 now? Tell me. Because it's made in the USA? I'm not much of a, even if it was made in Canada, so let's put it, Canadian style. Even if the guy was in Montreal making the loops and would send them for $500, I would buy the MLA 30 at $50 from China. I'm sorry. There's a moment where I just can't explain, understand. We're not talking about $25. Of course, even at $50. Say you got the MLA 30 at $50. I got a guy in town that makes it for $100. I'll buy it for the guy in town for $100 because I understand it's more expensive a little bit here, and there's somebody here's working, and it's nice, instead of some Chinese guy somewhere, I don't know. But when you talk about 500 to 50, that's where I stop thinking and just like, no. I'm sorry, but come on. Darren Pierce, nice to have you on board from Australia. So what I was about to say, Welby Garcia, is that the W6LVP loop when I purchased, and while we talk, let's have more wine. I'm going to be careful not to be hungover for tomorrow. So, anyways, he insisted that I actually have a high-pass, low-pass filter, which I agreed to because he said that it would be really crappy performance if I did not. Now, today when I look at the MLA 30, I'm wondering where would that crappiness go through? My radio, or is it that he knows that his circuit for the W6LVP loop has a hard time withstanding strong AM/FM signals? Because that loop, I've not noticed any birdies, any FM breakthroughs. It's actually quieter. If you guys watch my show every week, you guys see the regular intervals of the harmonics of different stuff. I mean, the worst that I have is at 27 megahertz. Okay, let's go to 27 megahertz. I still have them, but I noticed today when I actually switch antennas, they're not as strong with the MLA 30. So there's a lot of stuff that makes me think of, okay, so here I'm 27 megahertz right now. Was it really necessary to add in Canadian dollars, it added almost $100 to the antenna. It also adds one thing that I noticed that I am happy with the MLA 30. It's that it has the fact that it actually blocked medium wave. And when I saw how, and you guys have just seen how 160 meters, 1963, how the signals are so good on 160 meters. I never had such amazing signals, such a low frequency. It made me think that the W6LVP loop might be a great medium wave antenna, but I never could try it because I never had the capability because of the filter, and it can be switched off. Now I look at the MLA 30, and the MLA 30, if I want to go to see if 1010 Toronto is there, I just tune it, and I just tune whatever frequency I want in a medium wave band. So this is 1130 New York.
We're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
And you look at that and you're like, yeah, I'm tuning medium wave now. I will be able to actually DX medium wave signals with the loop. And my reflection is that a $50 MLA30 probably, you would expect that the electronics in that amplifier are not as good as the ones in W6LVP loop. But now when I see this, and there's no overloading anywhere, okay, did I really need those filters? One. And I'm actually going to have more fun with my MLA30 too, because I'm tuning a wider range. There's something we're going to try, okay guys? I know it's out of bounds of the frequency, but let's check something out. 49,900. So I got a baby monitor. Oh wow, look at that. So look at that. I got a baby monitor on 49890 VHF. I'm tuning it right now. We can hear a clock and people talking and a buzz. It's S10 Plus. Let me just look and compare that to the W6LVP. I totally agree, it's out of range. This one is S9. It's actually stronger on the MLA30. And I'm almost at the 6 meter band right now. And it's actually stronger on the MLA30. So, I don't know. Okay, guys. Stop buying Walbrooks. Stop buying W6LVP loops that are out of price. MLA30 is the way to go. I'm sorry. This is totally where you should go. And stop wasting your money on expensive loops that are way, way too expensive. Honestly. Homebrew, WF79 Homebrew says HCJB playing Indian music, 6950. Let's check that out. Let's put it on AM. I'm not getting it well tonight. Propagation isn't that great tonight. It's not as good as I'm used to having usually. Even WRMI 7780 isn't that strong at this time. It's there, but about 5850. Hey, Brother Stare on 5850. Wow, I like that. Oh man. Kevin Woods 6040 great in Nova Scotia. Hey, Fast Load. Nice to have you here. Eddie Essex, send it to officialshortwaveradio@gmail.com. Officialshortwaveradio@gmail.com. What else do we have? Jeff says, I'm tuned into a 1 kilowatt blowtorch AM broadcast. Maybe a blowtorch. Half a mile from me. Half a mile is really close. Rotated the MLA30 and reduced the signal by 30 dB. So that is what a great loop antenna does. Totally, Matambale. I have a lot less harmonics, a lot less spurs with the MLA30 than the W6LVP. It's like, what the hell? This is, what the hell? It's like, you know, crazy. Robert Page just sent, here's a photo of the station inside my listening post. Radio Shack DX392, Realistic DX160, Grundig S350DL, Radio Shack World Receiver, Realistic DX440, Texanor 9012, Radio Wow R108, Texanor 909, Radio Shack DX394, Radio Shack Patrolman Shortwave 60, and X8 Data R808. So let's check that out. And here it is for you guys' enjoyment. Look at that. Nice little setup. This is nice. That is nice. So we got one of the, look at that guy. I have it here. Oh, it's gone. I took it off. The patrolman is on the other side now. But I wanted to show you the patrolman. Thanks for sharing. It's nice to have pictures. It's always nice to have and see everybody's and he's got a QSL from Cool AM Radio. So please do not be offended by the picture. Cool. This is nice. It's always nice. That's one thing that is cool here of the show, is that it's also fun, honestly, to see the different the shacks of everybody, and you know what radios they have and how they're set up. That's things that we don't see a lot. It's really nice to see all of that. Okay, what else do we have? Technical Thoughts says McGlone, nice to have you here. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, I know, Terry Cook. It doesn't offend most people. But I actually have to say it. Okay, you guys can't believe it, but when a picture like that is there, I now have, as an obligation, I have to say it. That I'm sorry if you are offended by a picture on the YouTube channel. Yeah, we are there. This is society as we are now. I think we're going back for some reason. I don't know. So you're watching the Shortwave show, and it's nice to see you here. It's what we are now in. We've been on for what now? 2 hours 30 minutes. I'm just going to post quickly. If you want to donate a little something because you love me. Hey, who doesn't love me, honestly? PayPal.me/shortwave. And if you were planning on buying a Walbrook and you're getting an MLA 30, you know what? You're saving hundreds of dollars. So what you could do is, you know, send a small percentage of that saving to my PayPal account. So PayPal.me/shortwave, or PayPal to the Yahoo email that I just posted. And of course you can be a patron at patreon.com/radio and computers. And there you can set up something every month automatically if you wish, and what you like what I do. And it's most appreciated. So QB or BQ. Bicycle pick would be better if someone if there were some antennas on the bike. Of course, these are radio and an MLA 30 right in front. She's looking through the loop. Looking through the loop. Oh, man. Yeah, fast load. I am comparing one of the things here. So, okay, I'll be fair because we got to be fair when we talk about stuff. So, my take on Walbrook is a take that so tonight I said don't buy a Walbrook, don't buy a W6LVP. I don't have a Walbrook. So I am basing my observations of that with 4 or 5 different guys that had both a Walbrook and a W6LVP, and seem to say that they are very similar in performance. So that's where I'm just saying, you know what, buy that cheap ML830. It's amazing. And send part of that money you saved on the Walbrook or W6LVP to my, whatever. I got to say one thing. That's where I'm actually very happy to have no one give me a freebie of something. So imagine if W6LVP, Larry, his first name, would have said, hey, I'm giving you a free loop. Okay? And I get the ML830. Okay? And I get the ML830. And then I got to compare them. It gets difficult to say what you think when somebody gave you something. I had in the last year at least 20 offers of, oh, I'm going to give you that thing to talk about. And I've declined every time. And I've declined every time. And here's the reason why. If I would have been offered a W6LVP loop, I would not bash it like I do tonight. Because tonight I am free of saying what I think and what I want to say. And that, you know what? Buy that ML830 from China. I got no problem with that. You know, the one of the best articles that I've read on the ML830 was from a guy that owns the W6LVP loop. And you know what? He had to come back on his post and said that he had tons of crap and of bashing of all sorts of problems because it seems some people just don't understand that, there might be other things that are cheap but still better than the very expensive stuff. And he came back and reposted his ML830 review because he wanted to say, you know what? I'm sorry, but that thing is really great. And I stand by, it's absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to tell you one thing. I am not going to get something for free just to talk about it and not be able to, because honestly, I wouldn't, would I? That's a good question. Maybe after 3 beers when I'm drunk I would say the truth and then I would never get any freebies again. But honestly, I'd rather buy the stuff. This afternoon it was interesting because Fastload on my Facebook page was like, so you wanna say, wow, cool, the ML830 is amazing, and at the same time want to say the F word because you spent $500 on that other loop that isn't better. And actually, I could rant and say, well, I spent $500 on something that finally is not worth $500. But at the same time, no. You know why? Because I'm helping you guys a lot. Because I am in the real world, I can tell you boat antennas together, compared, and that's it. I can honestly say what I think of boat antennas. Because I have both, I use both, and you know what? That's going to give me tons of views that are going to be monetized. Because people are going to say, that guy knows what he's talking about, he's got both. He's not saying that thing is good and he can't compare it to anything else. So, you know. Oh yeah, absolutely. The medium wave filters are going to remove. I forgot about those. Look at that.
Wow, your guess with Thanksgiving favorites.
Look at 1010 Toronto, CFRB, the same one as CFRX. Look how strong the medium wave signals are on the MLA30.
Foods Market for holiday meal essentials today.
Benjamin Moore does it again. From Thursday until Monday only, the third gallon of Benjamin Moore Regal Select paint is free. That's right, it's free.
That's 1010 Toronto.
Details in store. Benjamin Moore, paint like no other.
Are you on the fence about owning investment real estate? Does the idea
That the U.S. will do, we still don't know.
WCBS New York, 880.
But of course, the president just spoke moments ago to reporters in Los Angeles and signaled there was still time to take.
I'm going to really have fun DXing with this one. That's another thing that I like. Oh, look at that. That's the telemetry on 296. That you can decode with, I don't remember what software. Now this is nice. Honestly, I'm really happy.
Real for 10 years.
570.
Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's time for him to move on. There are other war heroes, which does not diminish Netanyahu's heroism. 199 with the taxes paid. Fast and free delivery too. Man.
516, that must be some kind of image. But anyways, I'm really amazed. That thing is great. Oh yeah, absolutely, Fastlud. You gave your impressions. But you know, I'm okay with it because I can honestly compare both loops. And I mean, it's not going to stay unused. What I was thinking is I'll be using the MLA30 on my main radios. And I'll use the W6LVP on maybe the ICOM. I mean, it does improve the ICOM. And you know what? After testing out today the MLA30 and the W6LVP, I'm starting to understand that my sloper in the backyard is maybe something I don't need to use anymore. It's done its time. It's been there for years. It gave me years of listening, but the loops have taken over. It's the battle of the loops. Not the Fruit Loops, the regular loops, the antenna loops. You know. Keisha Escape appreciates the sacrifices of St. Joe. So if you feel for me that I spent $500 on the W6LVP loop, you can give me a donation and say, you know what, I'm so sorry you paid that. This is for your next radio or your next antenna or your next... Okay, I'm bringing it in here now. Oh, man. Donald Hosmer, nice to have you here. Grew up with free speech movement times in the 60s. Now, if they disagree with you, they are accused of doing hate speech. Yeah. It's the way that it's done also we got to be careful. Oh, that disc gun was so crappy, Fastlove. The crappiest thing in the world. No wonder he gave me it. It was so crappy. It's just crazy. Oh, man. Donald Hosmer says, I'm taking a smaller loop on a trip to Shortwave to Southwest USA. AOR LA 400. Easier to stash in my Escape without the gear. Cool. Gerf says, well, just one thought. After both antennas have been up for a year, weathered winter cold, snow, ice, been up all summer, weathered heat, rain, lightning, and whatever else Mother Nature can throw. Absolutely, because that's going to be the other test. These things are going to be outside at minus 25 degrees, at snowstorms, at the very frequent ice storms that we get here in Montreal lately. In the past few years, ice storms have been the norm. And I got to say that it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what goes through winter. You know, when it's minus 25, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how these things work. Absolutely. But I was thinking about one thing today. Somebody said, yeah, but, you know, what if the MLA 30 doesn't go through winter? Well, if I have to buy one MLA 30 every year because it doesn't go through winter, one thing that's interesting is that I will have to buy 10 years of MLA 30 before it gets to the price of the W6 LVP. Oh, man. Kinshascape, you ever remember the radio tuts on pirate radio years ago? You know, there's so many things in pirate radio. Technical Todd, the CRF V21 is full-featured shortwave radio receiver, built-in printer and decoding fax and RTTY. That's kind of nice. That's kind of nice. These all-in-one things that are kind of unusual. Oh, really? There's one on eBay right now? 12 grand. Oh, God. Technically, probably, Butterbean. There could be a possibility that I go on the roof and set one up. Stuck to the chimney. There, we still, you know, even though it's not used anymore, we still have an old chimney up there. Maybe I can stick it up to the chimney. The MLA 30 on the chimney is not going to give enough. It's not going to do enough pressure to do anything. And that would be possible, but and you know, I don't know. And by the way, because somebody actually, you know, everybody, it's very interesting because everybody notices everything I do, and that's part of YouTube. You know, if you got hundreds of people watching one thing, everybody will see something different. So I'll get, you know, I'll get 400 views and 85 comments. And somebody will notice that little thing that nobody ever seen before. And one of the posts today was, yeah, but, you know, the loops are on each side of the balcony. Maybe that side has more noise than that side. Okay. I'm just going to tell you one thing, wise ass, is that I did think of that. And before I reattached the antennas, I actually switched them and did the same test, and there was no difference. So that positioning is not an explanation about it. Okay, I did a switcheroo thing because I wanted to see. So no difference, no difference. Oh, man. Kinshascape. MLA 30 is small and light, so you could always just set up in your windowsill for bad weather days. Yeah, but I've tried the loop inside. Doesn't perform well inside. It really needs to be. Take care, fast load. Technical Todd. When I first did my video on my MLA30, I tuned in 47 frequencies on a PL880. Take care, VE2ERB. Yeah, Butterbean, absolutely. Actually, I will do something. I will look at it and I will add some sealant to make sure that it's as sealed as best as it can. And I can tell you, on that side also, I'm a little pissed at the W6LVP because it's very expensive. And the guy gives you a roll of, I mean, come on, $500 antenna. The guy gives you a roll of electric tape and says, oh, by the way, you should put this over the connectors to make sure that water doesn't go in. Really? Really? I mean, there's a few things like that. You're like, come on. Come on. You know what, Technical Todd? There's one thing I have noticed and I have understood over the years before the YouTube videos and now with the live shows. And the YouTube videos themselves, I've noticed that there's a lot of people that don't have, it's funny because we are in our little world, okay, honestly. I understand one thing. I am in my world. And when I talk about stuff, it's easy to forget that some of us have an easier life, which is unfortunately driven by money. So some of us might have more money in doing stuff than others. And it's easy to make more money and forget that maybe you're making more money than a lot of other people. So take care, Keegan. And the thing is that I post these videos and you start looking at, take care, Brent. It was nice to have you on board. And you start to look at people from around the world and post comments. And you start seeing that people from the other side of the world are telling you that, oh well, it's nice that you're talking to the HX Data D808, but it's $100 US, which is whatever in my currency, which is 3 months of my salary. And you're like, yeah, I get it. I get it that we're not all equal. And today, my rant is at that a little bit because it's like, how many people can afford an MLA30 loop that will improve their shortwave reception, but will never be able to afford a W6LVP or a Walbrook? And we got to think about that. Honestly, we really got to think about that because it's something that is that it's easy to forget. Honestly, it's really easy to forget. Hey, we're at 3 hours in the show already. Pretty amazing, eh? 11 p.m. here at night. Crazy. There was something I want to talk about that I'm forgetting. I'm trying to remember, but I'm totally forgetting. Anyways, you're watching the Shortwave show, Wednesday evening edition. And how many hours is this show? Well, all shows are have no time limit. So that means that shows can be as short as 1 hour or 2, and they rarely do that. And they can go on, and the record is 5 hours and 30 minutes. 5 hours and 30 minutes. Oh, I know what I want to try. Somebody said, okay, technical thought. How far does the antenna receive out of shortwave range? So, you know what? We're going to test something. I'm going to look at the VHF local weather here from Environment Canada, which is the equivalent of NOAA. We're going to tune 162.550 megahertz. Here it is.
Vent léger devenant du sud-ouest de 10 à 15 nœuds tôt jeudi après-midi, puis devenant léger jeudi soir. Vent de brouillard.
So it's S8, but I know that it's not very good in performance because if I click and do 162.400, there's nothing. And let's take this and show you guys that with just a telescopic 162.400. Oh, I'm not getting it here either. Is it I usually get it here too. So maybe it's not as usual. Yeah, it's there, but it's not very strong. Maybe because of the noise here. I don't know if you guys can hear. This is the NOAA weather out of Burlington, Vermont. So I'm getting it with just the telescopic here. And it shows you that, well, around that frequency, 162 megahertz, it's not very good in performance because I would be getting the Burlington, Vermont weather. So it gives you an idea. Paul M. Nice to have you here. Here we have aircraft landing all the times. Take care, Cicadas Vibes. Nice to have you here. Technical Thought says, I figured in my beginnings I struggled and there was many things I did without. I really am goodwill guy. I have given away 4 radios to people already. I understand exactly what you mean. Yeah. I am also a very I've given a lot of stuff because I really am you know, I understand that some people have less than others. Hey Jean-Marc de la France, nice to have you here from Strasbourg. Could the MLA30 be used as an indoor loop in my concrete wall flat? I currently am using online SDR 20. Okay, here's the thing. Concrete is known to be a signal attenuation. But you could use the MLA30 in your flat if you actually put it next to the window. The window is key to your possibilities. So it could be possible. There are quite a few people that I've seen over time, Jean-Marc, that actually use loop antennas in their homes next to windows or patio doors, and with very good success if the noise level isn't too high. So there's a lot of possibility it could work because concrete is known to attenuate signals a lot. Technical Todd, you give a man a fish, you feed him one day, you give him a shortwave, he can listen to the world. I like that. Computer noise masking the weather level. Yeah, but you know there's a lot of noise also on the weather. Technical Todd says, I know I'm spoiled, but my wife says we need to refinance the house now because of my radios. So hey guys, hope you enjoyed today's show. 3 hours and 5 minutes. It was a lot of fun. Did you? Well, why not think about a little something to help me out and maybe pay my next antenna, my next radio, and you know what? It could be cool. I'll be talking about it, And, you know, I'm not getting buyed by the big companies. You know, I refused an offer from ICOM. And I refused several offers from a lot of manufacturers, including Texan, by the way. I don't want to have that because I would, you know, not be able maybe to say what I think. And I want to say what I think. So take care, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. If you can spare a few pennies, it'd be great. You know, it doesn't have to be a big contribution. Hope you enjoyed the show today. 3 hours and 5 minutes. We'll be back Friday, the 20th. Took me time to figure out it's the 20th. Friday the 20th at 20 hours UTC. We will be back with another show. And you guys have seen live tonight. Brazil, 4885 AM. It's weaker than usual. I often get it better than that. It's there, but it's in the noise. Whoops. 4885. It's barely there. I usually have a better signal than that. Even the Kodar, I see the Kodar is weaker than usual tonight. Tor Music, nice to have you here, Tor Music from Vermont. Nice to have you on board. Thank you for being here. It's nice to see people that watch that don't really necessarily entertain much, but Prasad Asol says, great show, learning a lot as a beginner, in awe of what all you are doing. Good night to you. Good night, my friend in India, from Canada. Love you all. It's always nice to be here. Best regards. Really cool to have everybody on board. I want you guys to be safe. If you can tune in on Friday, and of course, for those tuning in on Wednesdays, we'll be back next Wednesday, September 25th. This weekend is going to be summer-like in Montreal. We're supposed to reach the 80s Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So maybe Friday we'll be outside for one of the last outside shows, probably before winter sets in. Take care, stay safe. Hope you enjoyed today's show about antennas and talking of the MLA30 and all of that. Stay safe, my friend. And I wish a good night, a good day, and see you Friday or Wednesday. We are here twice a week, Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That's North America's time signal style. And UTC 0 hours UTC. And we are Fridays, 20 UTC, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Around the world, live. Bye, guys. Take care. Love you all. Stay safe.